What does the Bible say about self-control? Is it ever impossible to exhibit self-control? What does a lack of self-control say about your life as a follower of Christ? All to be discussed on this episode of the DudeFax podcast.
Bring it. Welcome to the DudeFax podcast. We're four guys that are united by a love for coffee, Jesus, and corny jokes. In the past, we all served in ministry together. In the present, we create podcasts to help you get through your week. And in the future, we aspire to be the granddad that teaches his grandkids to pull his finger. So if you love Java, Jesus, and dad jokes, you're going to fit right in. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of Joe, and enjoy this week's episode of the DudeFax podcast.
Woo!
Speaking of a lack of self-control, eat some more biscuits.
Oh, man. Brian is tasting the rainbow, not to be confused with...
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit.
I'm going to join you there, Ryan.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
some Skittles as well.
Taste.
You would only taste the biscuit if you were getting manna from heaven, and God was saying, hey, taste this biscuit.
Is she talking about like air biscuits? Because that would make that song even funnier.
It would be. Knowing those people, probably.
Yeah,
They probably are. But there's a lot of KFC references, so
that's true.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Are KFC biscuits that good though? I mean, it's been a while.
I was
since-
thinking they were referencing like Popeye's biscuits, mainly because I like to put honey on those.
Well, I know
Makes
KFC.
me think of Popeyes.
Yeah.
KFC has that honey sauce.
Oh, do they have honey
okay.
sauce? Okay.
Okay.
Do they have like a chicken biscuit with honey sauce?
I think you can put the honey sauce on the biscuit, but I don't know if you can order it and it comes together.
You know who does have a chicken biscuit with honey sauce?
Whataburger.
Whataburger.
You know who else has one? My Kitchen. Because I actually made those the other night. Just have some frozen biscuits, pop them in the air fryer for about 10 minutes at 325. And then we also have the little frozen chicken patties. You can put that in there too. And honey. It was delicious.
Sounds
I
good.
smell Heaven's Bakery cooking up something
Sounds
good
like
for
something
you,
I cook
sister.
up at.
It was delicious. And I didn't
that
have to
up
wait.
at 12:30 at night.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have to wait 2 hours in the Whataburger line to get it either.
Yeah.
I'm making slight adjustments so I can see you guys because I just realized I was like facing the couch over there, and
I'm just talking to an empty couch.
I want to see your handsome faces because
you.
you know if anything it'll help me exhibit self-control.
It's nice to know that you and my mom both think I have a handsome face.
That's right.
So wait, you seeing our faces helps you exhibit self-control?
No, I'm trying to exhibit self-control, so
Okay.
and not
Oh, so this is the
like
temptation.
drool over your handsome faces.
Okay, so we're the temptation.
That's right.
And this is I got you.
Actually, the candy is more of the temptation.
Oh, yeah. Would you like some candy?
I'm good. I've been eating too much of it.
Okay.
But I am going to exhibit self-control tonight because I am not going to hit the America sound the entire podcast.
Wow.
So it's going to be hard. There's a lot of
But
media over here that I want to push, but I
has anyone said that they don't like the America sound?
No, I just picked that one out. I was going to do the fart, but I can't. I have no self-control.
Yeah,
I got to
yeah.
do the fart at some point.
It just honestly, it would not be the Dude Facts if at some point there's not a fart noise.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we've already used it a few times, either there or with our mouths, right?
That's right.
There's nothing.
Speaking of self-control, are you guys ready for Thanksgiving yet?
I've been stretching out.
Do you have to do like a stretch a few weeks in advance?
Yeah, I warm myself up for it, and start eating a little more each day.
Okay, yeah.
Prepping for the
Ramping
big
up.
game. Yeah,
Kind of like Kobayashi.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, we got
Gotta
the same.
prepare.
We have the same training plan.
Yeah, but he ate like 95 Crystal burgers or something like that.
Gosh.
That just
Oh.
And he's dead now, right?
No, I think he's still alive.
Oh.
his insides are dead.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if you eat that many Crystal Burgers, it's like a death sentence.
He
Yeah.
should be dead.
He should be.
Yeah.
He may want to be after that.
His toilet is definitely dead.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
5 toilets ago. We really want Grant back on the podcast
know.
because Grant has a bidet.
I know. We want to
So-
hear all about his bidet.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could read what he wrote to his bidet.
we should.
We need to read that,
We should.
but I don't have any way to look it up.
Let me
right now.
see.
It was in the text group. wasn't it?
Yes, Grant is not here to give his dad jokes, but he wrote a very loving, would you call it a sonnet,
I think so.
to his bidet.
I think Shakespeare would be jealous.
He would. It was very touching.
Because he was away from his bidet
That's right.
and missing her. Him is.
Is it a her?
He's still away from the bidet, isn't he?
Okay, I found it. So do we have any music?
How about?
You got some music over there, Josh?
No, that's not good. Wait a minute. Hold on. No, that's not good. There we go.
There we go. So this is Grant, mind you, writing to his bidet to us, so we could see what he was saying to his bidet.
And it really reveals his heart for the bidet.
It does. And he would be able to read this himself and get credit for this, but he's not here,
Yeah.
so we're going to read it. Dearest bidet, it is day 3 of my trip to the land of my forefathers, Chicago, Illinois. As I think of my journey, I look back with fondest thoughts to my northwestern homeland. I realize now that my fondness is due to you. I miss your warm morning embraces. Throughout the day, I'm left with reminders of my missing you, clinging to the chasms and crevices of my body. Oh, yeah. I added the oh, yeah. I long for your refreshing presence, for yours is a pure and clean love whose necessity I had not fathomed until our separation. I know our love developed in haste, but the month we spent together, ravenous, intimate, and exposed as it was, cemented my undying affection for you. It will be 6 days until our blessed reunion, and the desire to haste the day when I grasp your hand, Dole, and relax into your embrace once more has not departed from my mind. I am truly, without question, wholeheartedly yours, Granticles, your love slave. I added that. Whew,
Yeah,
I felt dirty reading that.
I think they said a sonnet, but that sounded like it was almost written like a revolutionary soldier, like
Yeah.
writing
It
home to
did,
his his
yeah.
love.
It's been a fortnight since I've seen you.
Well, yeah, it reminds me of that Twitter account. I think it was, what's his name? That was with the Colts.
Oh, Civil War Andrew Luck.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the things he would write, or someone would write for him. But it's hard to believe that same guy stands up on Sundays and preaches.
Yeah. I felt like I went from Shakespeare to Barry White as it got
Yeah.
further into the
It-
sonnet.
It definitely got a little more uncomfortable the further
Yeah.
you went into it.
I was getting a little bassier and a little bit more black.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure why.
I don't know if you can say that.
Your skin
I
tone
mean,
was
my
changing.
skin was not, but I was.
You can feel the melanin.
Yes. But
that's
yeah,
good stuff.
we're talking about self-control, so we need to talk about all aspects of self-control, to eating, to the sensual desires in our lives, to other things, maybe getting angry, frustrated, all that fun stuff. So we're going to be talking about that on the podcast today, and we want you to stick around for that discussion. But obviously, we're having a little bit of fun. The World Series is over. Congratulations,
Yes.
Ryan. Your Texas
Yeah.
Rangers.
Way to go, buddy.
Yep.
Reppin'.
First win in history.
I see you're wearing the World Series hat.
This is the 2010 World Series.
The one they didn't win.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's still it's
But it was my go-to hat for many years. It's very well loved. But now the white one that I was wearing last week, I was wearing that the day they won. So that's the lucky hat now.
lucky hat.
Anytime they're struggling, I need a push. Throw that hat on.
That's right.
I guarantee you it's connected.
It is.
Somehow.
Really, I feel like it is. I'm excited.
But yeah, we're excited about the Rangers
Yeah.
getting their first World Series
As-
victory.
As somebody, I think I said this on Threads. I said, as somebody who is named after Nolan Ryan, it was a very big
Sure.
win and big moment in my life. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Your
So-
namesake.
What's that moment for Patrick Swayze though?
Roadhouse.
Since you're named after him as
I
well.
think the first time I watched Roadhouse, it was like it was a religious moment for me. It was crazy.
How old were you?
The first time I watched Roadhouse, I was probably like 4 or something like that.
Was this the TV friendly version?
No, I had it on VHS in my house.
It's not how you do it. You know, Nolan Ryan, when he punched Robin Ventura, that was kind of like Roadhouse.
Yeah, he was channeling some Patrick Swayze. There.
Yeah. So
It's a
I was
perfect name.
I was the conduit for that channel.
that's right. It's all connected here. That's what we like to bring up on
Yep.
DudeFax. So yeah, we would be watching Thursday night football because we're recording this on Thursday night, but it's the Panthers versus the Bears.
Yep.
Which,
Sorry, Grant.
and if I was really good, I'd find the they spanked my Bears, but never mind. It took too long. It's not funny
There's so
anymore.
many there. I don't know.
The moment has passed.
Yep.
It's passed.
It's yeah.
They spanked my Bears.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Speaking of spanking Bears, I think Ethan brought that up on the comments. So Ryan, what comments do we
Yeah.
have?
Wait. We need the intro. Do we have his intro?
Oh
already?
yeah, man, I'm way off.
That's
'cause
all
I'm,
right.
like,
Well,
way
we're in a
over
new
here
setup
now.
here.
Everything's all topsy
Yeah,
turvy.
we're trying to figure it out.
So yeah, just hang with me as I find this. We'll see if
We can
it's on here somewhere.
we can talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So what's the one Texas professional sports team that doesn't have the world championship? A world championship.
That's not
That's
it.
not it.
The
Oh, I found it.
Texans.
Okay.
Oh, the
Isn't it?
Texans.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a great video. I think it was on TikTok or something, but it was a scene from Austin Powers when Dr. Evil
Yep.
is telling everybody to get out of the room, but then he says, "No, not you, not you, not you." And then the mini me are the Texans. Did you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah, I did see
And,
that. That's really funny.
But then all the other people representing all the other Texas teams.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, this is awkward."
I like that. For some reason, I'm not hearing you, and
You're not
Here.
hearing me in that. What do I need to do? This
maybe
closer
that was it.
in.
Maybe you just weren't all the way up. I was just making sure you were coming through.
I think I am.
Oh, I'm hearing
Huh?
you.
I think.
Maybe I'm just going deaf. Speaking of hearing things,
It's time
I can't
for
hear that.
comments.
oh there. We go.
So worth the wait.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Everyone was just waiting on pins and needles for that.
Can you turn my headphones up? Maybe that's the problem.
So,
I don't know which ones are yours.
I think I'm in 3.
I think you're in 3.
all right.
How about now, big boy?
Yes, there we
Okay.
go.
All right.
I can hear now.
So, Ethan did say last week that the Saints whooped Grant's Bears. So,
Ethan's a Saints
Spanked
fan,
my Bears.
so
which I think probably surprised no one that the Bears lost.
not at all.
Yeah.
So Ethan's a Saints fan, but he dresses up as the devil. Okay.
Questions to ponder.
It's very New Orleans, though, if you think about it.
That's true.
I mean, evil is their god down there.
Ethan. So yes, Ethan said the costume he wore at Halloween is from a game called Dead by Daylight, which I think I mentioned that. It's also a game that I play or have played. So that was where I knew it from. So I'm glad to get confirmation on that. And then, so last week we talked about how we got a call on the Instagram account.
Yes.
So
And then you accidentally called him during the
did.
podcast.
In the middle of the podcast, which he recognized.
yes,
I believe.
so Ethan said Nate tried calling y'all, hoping you would pick up to see my face. A very odd experience that was, he said. And then Nate got in the comments and said, what Ethan said, I called hoping you'd pick up to see his face, and I laughed when I saw I missed a call from you guys, but I didn't return it because I figured it was a misclick, which it was.
Yeah, but it would have been so great.
It would have been.
Yeah,
In
you
the
just
middle of the
answered it.
podcast.
Could have been a short-time guest.
Lesson learned. Don't ever neglect a call from the Dude Facts.
That's right. Even if
'Cause
it's
you just don't know.
accidental.
Yep. Even if it's a booty click.
It could be magical. In fact, you should call right now. I know you're listening to this well after Thursday night, the 9th, but you should call right now. And if you don't,
whatever
I know.
time you're listening to this,
Give us a
call. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll answer.
That's got to go to my phone.
Call often.
I'm not taking phone calls all
Hopefully you'll be like taking a DudeFax and he'll call.
Yeah. Then we'll have a dude fact.
It might be.
David Cates, get it now. Okay.
I don't know how heavy we can drop the hints.
Yeah, we can drop a lot.
And then Tyler also said that you guys should just record a DudeFax episode in Jeff's neighbor's house.
Yes.
Which I
like
think
that.
would be even funnier if he just came home from work and we were just inside his house recording an episode.
I did hear him on the radio this morning. He sounded good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Good. Did he mention the podcast?
He forgot.
Oh, okay. No.
Has he
Even
listened
though
to us
he,
yet?
he doesn't even know about it. but-
I mean, it's crazy. He lives right over there. He's on the radio. We're technically on the radio
Yeah.
in some way. I mean, we have a show.
And we're on the internet, which is superior to the radio in a lot of
that's
ways.
true.
Yeah, I mean, we go around the world.
Or the World
Exactly.
Wide Web. They're just airing in Clarksville,
Clarksville.
and maybe like the outskirts of Nashville.
I wonder if he doesn't know what
May
he's
reach
missing
Pleasant
out
View.
That's right.
on. Man, we could launch his career.
We could.
Yeah.
And so, last comment. So, Seiko, back, actually not last comment. I got one more after
Cinco
this.
de
So
Mayo.
Seiko's back in our comments on Instagram said, one of my buddies told me that they just got their Christmas tree, and I told him that we can't be friends anymore, which I thought was a valid response.
Yeah. Yeah, well
I
done,
think
Seiko.
friends don't let friends buy Christmas trees in October or first of
That's right.
November.
Seiko, you have much better opinions about Christmas and when to decorate than you do about basketball.
True.
Way to go.
True. So, well, but let me clarify. Did he say the person bought a tree or put up a tree?
He said they told them that they just got their tree, their
Got
Christmas
their
tree. So maybe they haven't put it up yet.
Now,
But-
if it's a real tree, that's definitely wrong.
Oh yeah, that's way too early.
Definitely wrong.
That's just dumb.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to go as a family while it's snowing and chop it down in
Chop
the
it
woods.
down.
Yeah.
That's
That's
how
right.
it works.
Let your kids' eyelids freeze. And
It's all part of the experience.
Those are memories that we're creating.
Just don't forget a saw.
that's right.
And then so last comments. So we talked about deconstruction last week, and Ronnie Page on Instagram
Oh, Ronnie.
chimed in and said Republicans ruined Christianity with a shocked face emoji or whatever. So
Was that the
I thought
entire
interesting.
comment?
That was it.
Well supported
It's-
statement.
Well argued, nice and
See, I had
peer
to,
reviewed.
I had to restrain. I was gonna do the America
Self-control. Well done.
self-control. So.
Well done. And how are you feeling? You've been looking at us for a while.
Yeah.
What if you look at us and we play that?
Oh man, it's not good.
I better turn it off.
I need Homer.
You know, there might be a good argument to be made for that comment, but
I think that comment leaves out a lot of other political groups that
yeah,
have
'cause
also
it's probably
ruined things.
That's
probably
true.
not just the Republicans.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, they
politics in
definitely did their
general.
fair share of, dumpage, but yeah. Definitely
Hey,
not the only
Ronnie,
one.
this is kind of a fun podcast, so
Yeah,
you know.
don't be bringing it down.
Fucking
Okay.
Debbie Downer.
I mean, a good a good point about the topic is fine, even if it's not funny. That's fine, but just throwing random short things like that really have nothing to do with, or at least not directly. If he had then said, well, because Republicans are doing this, this, and this, that's led to the deconstruction. Okay, that's fine, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I would argue that King Henry VIII ruined Christianity. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, point. If you had just said that, I
Yeah,
think
right.
we would all be okay with it. Probably okay with it.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, any more comments?
No, that was it.
That's it? All right.
So,
So-
we eagerly await
So
your new comments
we
this
need
week.
people to comment
Yeah.
more. I mean, it was great. We're thankful. Ethan and Nate and Tyler, you guys did awesome. David never comments publicly.
He slides into our DMs.
He does slide into our DMs like hardcore sliding. And sometimes I wonder why I let him slide into my DMs.
Mm-hmm. Why is he not blocked?
Because of some of the things he says. We're trying to get him on the podcast, but we want Grant to be here.
Definitely.
Too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
We're going to try to work that
We got
out.
a full house.
Hopefully very soon. And David, when you come on, you're going to have to exhibit some self-control.
That's right. We don't have a bleep button.
That's
Yep.
true.
I mean, we can and
Yeah.
post, but
But you're causing Josh a lot of extra work. And if we go live, we don't have a bleep
Ah,
button.
that's
With
right.
David and Grant, we'll have a lot of lack of self-control on the podcast.
that's right. It will be game on for those guys.
Yeah.
We better like make sure the topic does not lend itself to those guys going off the rails.
That might
Yeah.
be
true.
Yeah.
good. Also, we probably shouldn't do that one live.
Maybe not.
Probably not. Probably not. We just have to have a big disclaimer on the front end.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of some of our friends that listen to the podcast, I feel like this just needs to be read. And I meant to ask him permission, but I just didn't have the time.
I think if you comment, you get. Was this a comment or like a text?
This was somebody's Facebook status as of 4 hours ago.
Oh well, it's in public.
And he's a listener, and he's somebody that is beloved to the podcast. But this is Joey N. Nicholas, and this is what he said.
He gets his own music.
4 hours ago. If you don't fart, your head will get big. Hot air has to go somewhere.
I actually thought that was kind of funny.
So far, I am the only one who has liked it.
Oh, I need to get on there. And
So get on and support
He's
Joey.
been going to school, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think so.
I want to know what school he's been going to.
Hey, it was all legible and readable, and
Grammar
made
correct?
sense. Yeah, correct
well
grammar.
done, Joey. We're proud of you,
So
buddy.
so he's doing good. He might have put that in Grammarly.
Yeah, I was like, maybe he found
But still,
Grammarly.
use the tools at your
Yeah,
disposal
you got to.
do that.
So now people will see his social media and thank God this is an educated
Yeah.
feller.
He may get a lot of follows off this.
Yeah.
Now that we've
I think
mentioned
so.
him. It's going to say like, well, Facebook is Joey Nicholas, right?
Yeah.
Now
Instagram.
we got on Instagram. Has something to do with weed and
Pimp Daddy 420.
pimp daddies.
Something like that, yeah.
All right, we need self-control.
Let's move
here.
on.
We're going to play a little game today. This is going to be fun. I'm going to bring up some situations, and we're going to compare them, or we're going to have two situations, and you guys have to tell me which situation would be the hardest to exhibit self-control. So when we read these two statements, which one of these things would be the hardest situation to exhibit that self-control? So they have to do with many different things, and so you guys are welcome to talk
Is
these
one a
out.
bowl of candy?
Yeah.
Close.
M&M's.
Close, as Ryan is opening M&M's. All right, so here's the first one. Which would be hardest to exhibit self-control? Resisting a cup of coffee when you walk by a great-smelling coffee shop and your wife wants to get a cup, or resisting a donut when you walk past a great-smelling donut shop and your wife wants a donut.
Which would I not be able to exhibit self-control?
Yes,
Definitely the donut.
donut. So
Yeah.
you can resist coffee.
Yeah, I love coffee, but I can smell it and not have to drink it.
Okay.
But
If we're walking by a donut shop and my wife wants one, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
if I'm walking by a donut shop, the chances are I'm already walking in there before my wife tells me.
Of course, what are the chances I'm going to be walking by one? Driving,
I don't know. Maybe you're in New
mean,
York
yeah,
or something. I don't
maybe.
know.
Yeah.
I agree. I think donut as well. I can smell coffee, and still not. I mean, I love the smell, and it will make me want it.
You
But
can also get coffee at the donut shop.
that's true.
Oh,
So
good point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Parley Donuts has pretty good coffee.
and maybe
They do.
maybe it's actually both. It's all the same situation. It's a paradox.
Oh.
All right. How about this one? This is a little harder. Not eating more than 2 slices of pizza at the CC's buffet, or not eating more than 1 plate of food at the Chinese buffet.
I would probably go with the CC's because you can load up that first plate at the Chinese
Yeah.
buffet.
You can also
That's
eat
true.
salad at CC's. There's no rule against that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does dessert
self-control.
pizza count as regular pizza?
I think it does.
Oh, okay.
Do cinnamon rolls count as pizza?
But no, cinnamon
Ooh.
rolls aren't pizza.
Okay, another good point there. And they've got pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got
okay.
lots of non-pizza. pizza
Maybe it
items.
is the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, you
No,
don't get as much pasta and cinnamon rolls.
I
as you
still,
want.
when I go to CC's, I'm like, I paid for this. I'm going to get all the pizza I can eat. And I'm going to
Yes.
put somebody in this place out of house and home.
I've had so many memorable moments at CC's with both of you. When we were in Texas, I remember the first time I brought the youth to CC's. Of course, you guys decided to have a contest to see who could eat the most.
As any good teenage boy does.
And one boy ended up puking. So
Then you know it's successful.
yeah, so it was great. And then Josh and I think we actually we used to do a podcast together. I don't know if people realize this. We did a podcast when we worked together at FBC, and we did a podcast one time at CC's. We brought the recorder, set it in the table, and between the two of us, we ate 50 slices of pizza. Oh, the thought of that now.
There's this great picture that it's not clear, which I think captures the moment better than a clear
Yes.
picture would. But we're dying, and there's smudge mark on the lens, and that was a memorable moment.
I think we had a couple of our youth there
Yeah.
to reflect in the moment. And we just stacked up the crust. So we actually didn't eat the crust. We stacked it up.
Oh, yeah, until you count.
Yeah.
I used to always get in trouble because I would eat the crust.
Couldn't get a real count.
No. Yeah. I will say, though, I haven't been to a CC's in probably like 10 years at this point. I think we need to make a DudeFax CC's
That does sound good.
runs at some point.
Maybe we go and record there and see how many we can eat.
Yeah.
We should. Yeah.
I think we can easily get 50 between the three of us.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
yeah.
So I'm thinking 100.
I mean, I can't put it away the way I used to, but
I shouldn't put it away.
For a special episode, I think we can do 100.
I think we can. For the fans.
Maybe we can get David to come.
Yeah.
David can put away some pizza.
David, well, he eats a sweaty hunk every night.
That's
right.
right.
That's
Yeah.
true, yeah.
And if I had that clip ready. But,
Listeners, there's context for that. So,
so it says this PC battery is running low.
is it plugged in?
It is plugged in, I believe.
Is it plugged in over there?
Is it plugged into the right port?
So I wonder if that's the charger that was over there. We may have to use this one.
Uh-oh.
But they're both exactly the same.
Hold on, I might figure. I think the part of the charger was loose.
Man, we're having all
Bottom.
kinds of technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
Bear with us.
So it is now plugged in and
Oh,
charging.
great. Good news.
So that's good to
That's
hear.
good news.
All right. Glad you guys could join us with that.
Hey, it's got you covered.
We're brought to you by Kennedy Law Firm.
Yep.
Not really.
Sponsoring our technical difficulties.
These technical difficulties
That's
brought
right.
to you by Kennedy Law Firm.
All right. Which situation would be harder to exhibit self-control? Not saying anything to a person who continually says that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Seco.
Yeah.
Or not saying anything to a person that says NASCAR is not a real sport.
Oh, that's no problem at all.
It's no problem at all because NASCAR is not a real sport.
Man. Yes. Shots fired.
No, it's a sport. It's just not a good one. It's
Yeah. It's like golf or tennis. Not a
Yeah,
real
Yeah.
it's not
sport.
or women's basketball.
you put it on when you need to take a nap. It's fine. Whatever.
We're brought to you by Kennedy Law Firm.
Sorry, I meant women's soccer.
Let me go ahead and mark that clip. Yeah, I think I would have to
You
say
only see
something.
12 passes for a missed layup.
Suddenly, me talking about LeBron and Michael Jordan doesn't seem as controversial.
Speaking of self-control, you should exercise some right now.
Well, this is an opportunity for our listeners to exercise self-control.
Yeah.
When that clip goes on TikTok, I'm going to get yelled at home.
So
That's gonna be a fun
what
one.
we've declared here is that NASCAR is somewhat a sport, but not that great, and that women's basketball is not real.
Correct. Oh, it's real. It's just really bad.
Really bad. Okay.
I was thinking it was like fictional, like it's like Lord of the Rings or something.
It's mystical.
Wait. They get together and play basketball? When do they have time between all the dishwashing and laundry and?
Oh gosh.
I don't even know
Hobbits
if we
do
have sound effects for this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nothing
if
like
there's-
warming up at 2 a.m.
Sure,
with
why
a
not?
Sweaty hunk.
That's right.
I just want you to know I value women and their contribution to sports
Now, talking about real sports.
as cheerleaders.
All right. We're obviously not exhibiting self-control here.
Nope.
But let me go to the fourth one. Which situation is hardest to exhibit self-control? Not yelling or honking at another driver who tailgates you for miles and then speeds around you and flips you off. Or not yelling or honking at another driver who is driving in front of you too slowly and their kid pulls down his pants and sticks his butt on the back window to moon you.
I would be like impressed with the kid.
That just sounds funny to me. I'd probably still honk though.
Could it be more like a honk of support?
Yeah, it'd be like
Like a honk if you love Jesus kind of honk.
Yeah, like one of those double honks. Yeah.
There is kind of a difference. Like if you lay on the horn like, you're ticked off. But if it's a,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a,
That's a
Nice.
support.
It's like an
encouraging-
attaboy.
yeah. I love you. You're the man.
Just a gentle, way to show
Nice,
approval.
nice cheek
Yep.
spreadage.
Oh gosh.
I think
Yeah.
so too.
But that's gonna be a tough window to clean.
Maybe that's why you're honking. Want to clean those windows?
Yeah, because somebody that rides your tail, speeds around you, flips you off. I just hope that person doesn't go to my church.
Yeah.
Because the way I would probably respond
It's on the way to church.
on the way to church.
So then you walk in and you see him.
It's on the way into the church parking lot.
Yeah, ends up being my pastor.
How you doing?
Not my real pastor, just pastor in general.
Yeah.
Not the pastor that's my boss and,
Oh,
and
okay.
signs
No,
my
that's
paychecks.
good.
Yeah.
It was funny, the chapel that I go to on Sundays, one of the chaplains got up to preach this Sunday, and he was actually talking about sort of this very thing, is that he was driving to chapel and was in the wrong lane and didn't realize it, and he had to merge over in this light. And he said a car came and almost hit him, and he got mad, threw up his hands, and honked. And then he realized, obviously, he was in the wrong. And then after the service, I said, yeah, do you think the person that you almost hit and you yelled at is actually somebody here in the service? And he was like, oh, I didn't think about that. I thought, how funny is that? Your pastor yells at you on the way to church. What are you doing?
And then preaches about self-control.
Yeah. It's up there and gives a nice,
That makes me think of
calm
that
message.
the Lake Beach with Dave Grohl.
Pastor yelling at the cornhole. All right, here's another one. Which situation would be hardest to exhibit self-control? Not speaking up when someone says the earth is flat and there is no outer space, or not speaking up when someone says, with training, you can remember being in the womb.
Those are both so stupid.
That second one is actually a Scientologist belief.
Really?
I was like, I've heard that before. It's,
I don't think I've heard that.
oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think somebody in Nashville told me that one time. And they handed me a card for Dianetics. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
thanks. I don't need that.
Did they just approach you and say, hey, with training, you can remember being in the womb?
It was a weird conversation. Like they ambushed me outside of Bridgestone because I was going to a concert, and I don't know. They just like were talking to me, and it seemed like a casual conversation, and then like that came up somehow. They were just like, yeah, you can train yourself to remember yourself in the womb, and they were like, if you want to learn more about that, I was like, okay, cool.
I would probably have to say the flat Earth thing, because you are to do that. And not that remembering yourself in the womb is going against that; it's not going against scientific stuff. But I mean, I guess no. If someone says, "I remember," can you dispute that? I mean, it's you're saying it, but
why do you want to remember that? That's my question.
That was my question too.
Yeah.
Is there something valuable that can come from that?
Yeah.
And what are you going to remember? Just a bunch of sticky goo all around you?
It was dark. It's like,
It was dark.
I
It
can tell you
smelled
exactly
weird.
what it was like.
There was a lot of bacon.
It was submersed in
pickles.
fluid.
I couldn't breathe.
But I think like the flat Earth one
No, yeah.
is
I
you're-
can't resist myself
you're
to
going
not.
against centuries of scientific evidence. And not everything science puts out, we just need to
just
grab
like-
onto. But
You're going against people that have visibly seen it
yeah,
from space.
yeah, and I mean, you're saying so much has been lied about, or I mean, everyone. I mean, there's people on every corner of the globe that have evidence or support around Earth. All the governments, pilots, whatever. But I don't want to get off on flat Earth, but they put out some
all right.
interesting things out there. But at the end
We'll
of the
chop
day,
this up.
I
No,
just
take
have a
time.
hard time.
When people talk about flat Earth, I envision myself as Buzz Aldrin knocking them out.
Hey.
Which is one of my favorite videos on the internet, by the way.
Buzz
Him
Aldrin
knocking
probably
out a
thinks
flat Earth.
that WNBA is not a real sport too.
Yeah, that's right.
I
but,
can
uh,
almost guarantee that. He does.
You want to talk about a conspiracy?
Yeah.
What about women's basketball?
So if you need a recap, basically flat earthers are dumber than Scientologists, and the WNBA is not a real sport, and NASCAR is not real either. Maybe. Okay.
Sure.
And we wouldn't mind if you mooned us. The moon is also round.
And I just want to qualify. I don't think all flat earthers are dumb. I just think the thought of flat Earth is dumb.
Oh, okay.
Because I got friends I don't want to lose over this.
Gotcha. Well, I said it. All right. This one's gonna be tough. This is really gonna be real difficult. Which situation would be hardest to exhibit self-control? Not laughing once during an entire episode of The Office, or not laughing once for an entire Nate Bargatze stand-up routine.
Neither.
Do I get to pick the episode of The Office?
Well, and that's true. I was thinking, I've seen so many, and there's some that I could probably get through without laughing.
Yeah.
Like there's one in
Scott's Tots.
particular. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that
one's so
one's
awkward.
I'm not laughing. I'm just cringing the whole time. There's a episode. So I've binge watched The Office many times, like front to back, and every time.
You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Every time I get to the episode, it's basically a clip episode when they're being bought out by Kathy Bates's company.
Saber.
Yeah.
Sabri?
There's like an auditor guy that comes in, is like talking to him, and it's basically just an excuse for them to show clips from the show. And I'm like, I just saw this because I've been watching the show nonstop for 10 hours.
So maybe The Office, depending on the
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the hardest to exhibit self-control would be the Nate Bargatze.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, I agree, Nate Bargatze.
And hopefully Nate Bargatze listens at some point.
So, since we've tagged him and the other guys that are on the Nateland podcast, every now and then I'm getting a notification on my phone show up, and it'll have one of their names, and then it'll say like posted or something. But when I first see it, I think, oh, they're sending us
commenting.
something.
Yeah.
Or they're commenting. And then it's
my.
always disappointing.
Yeah.
You know.
That sounds about right.
That is
Also, did you know his name is pronounced Bargetzi?
Bargetzi, yeah.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even say that.
I know. I was watching the clip of him on Fallon talking about that. That was really funny.
He's like, we even pronounce it wrong.
Yeah, I was like, I think you pronounce it correctly.
All right, this is the last one. So, which situation would be hardest to exhibit self-control? Holding your poop on a cross-country flight after downing 5 cups of coffee and a Taco Bell bean burrito, or holding your poop on a cross-country flight after eating a basket of habanero wings and drinking a 30-ounce Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
For me, it would be the coffee and bean burrito. I would not be able to control that.
Knowing how my body reacts to Taco Bell on a regular basis, I know that would be the hardest one for me to have self-control.
That one would be difficult, but I have to say the habanero, because as soon as the habanero sauce hits my gut, it's flying out the other end.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally like a slingshot.
What about just straight habaneros?
Yeah, a straight
That you're
habaneros,
paid
I think it just
$20 a piece to eat.
I think it just falls through like there's a hole in me.
Yeah, and just like it's just a skeleton.
Yeah, if I
and
put
just-
it in, it's like doesn't
there's-
even take time.
But there's some magical transformation that occurs. And, becomes super stinky. And brown.
It's like the worst slide ever.
It's spicy on the way in and out.
That's right.
I have a hard time really relating to that because I don't do super spicy stuff. But I could imagine, diarrhea like that. If I ate one of those. I mean, as Jim Gaffigan said, someone asked him if he wanted the
Hot Pocket.
Well, there's something about a super super spicy something or other. And he's like, because he doesn't want super spicy diarrhea. There's something along those lines. I forget exactly the wording in that, but that's kind of how I am. Like I like the taste of spice. I don't like the feel of spice on the back end.
I love it.
You
Do you like the feel of
it?
spice on the back end?
Not on the back end, but
It's
I
very
love the feel
comforting
of
in the
spice
mornings.
just in general.
Do you
I like
view
really spicy
the
food.
feel of spice like Grant views his bidet?
Maybe. I mean, it makes me feel alive a little bit. Like it just kind of reminds me.
Could you
that I'm here.
just come up with a sonnet right here on the spot? And
Let's see.
say it to us while you play music.
Do I need to give you a little
Yeah.
inspiration?
I'll borrow a little bit from the bard. To compare thee to a summer's day,
Oh yeah.
where the sun shines bright and burns like my butthole.
Joey would be proud. That was pretty good. Oh, we are having the most difficult time exhibiting self-control, as you can see. So it's appropriate that we talk about this as our subject today.
We all need to grow in
We'll
this.
all learn a little bit from this discussion.
I mean, we've gone 42 minutes on this. Awesome.
Felt like 12.
Yeah. So we are glad that you've joined us. Not all of our conversation is going to be middle school boy humor, we promise. We will have more self-control and have good, serious discussion, but we might still inject a little bit of middle school boy humor. So just beware, but it'll be good, I promise. So stick around for part 2 coming up after this message from Kevin. I'm just kidding. No message.
All right, we're back with our discussion this evening on self-control. What does the Bible have to say about it? Why is it important? What are the pitfalls of not practicing self-control? Things along those lines. So as we joked about in the first part, self-control is difficult. We see it in a lot of different areas of life, how we react to people who frustrate us, on the road, things that entertain us, whatever. But I think that we all, in some way, every believer probably has something in their life that is more of a struggle when it comes to practicing self-control. There may be other things like what you struggle with, or I don't know what you struggle with might be different than where mine is. Even for those of us who are maybe growing and aware of those and maturing in our faith, there's still probably something there that that we could identify. This is still more of a struggle for me. So we're going to get into what Scripture says about it, how we can practice it in our lives, those kinds of things. But I thought we would just share that. Like, what is it maybe in our lives that we notice, okay, this is when it comes to the idea of having self-control, this is the thing that really challenges me in that area. Do you guys have anything on your mind that maybe would be that for you?
I know that I have a tendency a lot of times to be a little quick with my words. A lot of times people say something, whether that's out of anger or just out of being immature, and I mean this in serious situations. Like, a lot of times I'll just say something that isn't necessarily beneficial to the situation, or may come off as somewhat arrogant. Happens a lot in my working situations. Sometimes if I'm talking to a coworker or something like that, if I think something, sometimes I don't always think it through, and I will end up blurting something out that ends up being a pain point, in me dealing with other people and personal relationships at work. So it's definitely something I struggle with. It's happened to me a few times in the past.
Kind of that foot and mouth disease.
Yeah.
I've got that.
It can happen. I would just share, and I'll share a little bit about something God actually has been teaching me recently. But I have trouble with self-control in many areas.
Mm-hmm.
But one that is frequent is just similar to yours, Ryan, but it's more anger, just general anger towards things, or snapping, about things. And I'm good at restraining it publicly a lot of times, but privately, I do struggle. Mm-hmm. And I was really trying to get to the root of that. I was praying through that actually a couple of weeks ago, just like, God, I'm tired of driving to work and just being angry at other drivers. That puts me in a foul mood when I walk in the door, and now I've got to be a chaplain and be friendly and interact with people, and I'm fired up and just angry. And I was praying and asking God, how can I exhibit more self-control? What can I do? And obviously I know that He does a lot to help me, and it is a fruit of the Spirit, and I know we'll talk about that. But what are the missing ingredients here? And it was neat how God, sort of through a series of scriptures I was reading and some devotions that I was also reading, sort of showed me a progression, how my anger, because they always say anger stems from, is like a tree. That's just what you see on the outside. It's really a root system. So there's something underneath. And I was trying to get to what is underneath there. So why is it hard for me to exhibit self-control when it comes to anger? And, I tied it back to, I get angry often when I lack confidence in a situation. Either I lack confidence about that it's going to turn out the way that I want it, or I don't feel strongly about it. And why do I lack that confidence? Well, it's ultimately because my trust isn't fully in God at certain times and in situations. And that causes anxiousness as well. And so that anxiousness kind of filters down to that lack of confidence and then that anger. And I read a scripture as I was kind of tracing that and thinking, all those thoughts that come from anxiousness, from a lack of confidence and trust in God, and anger, a lot of the things that occur out of that obviously are examples of not having self-control, but also are senseless thoughts and sometimes senseless acts. And I read Proverbs 19:11, which says, good sense makes one slow to anger. And I thought, well, how pertinent is that? Is that, one who's slow to anger is going to have good sense. The opposite of that, being quick to anger, is someone basically having no sense. And then I read Isaiah 26:3, which says, you will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. And I literally had a situation after I read that verse where I got quick to anger, you know, as soon as I heard some news, and I got like super angry and, you know, was anxious in the moment. And I realized what had I been doing the minutes before that? Well, I think the minutes before that, I had literally been surfing my phone, and I was just looking at like social media. And it wasn't anything like bad, but it was just, you know, my thoughts were not fixated on God. You know, I was just looking at, you know, things that really aren't going to sharpen me or strengthen me as a believer. And a few days later, I had actually done the reverse. I was listening to some praise and worship. I'd been in prayer. I was really, it just felt like me and God were in sync that day. You know, praying a lot, reading a lot. And same thing happened. Got some news that would normally make me lose self-control, get angry. But I heard it, and I immediately felt this like overwhelming peace. And, you know, that's when that verse came back to mind, is that you'll keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. And it's sort of changed how I approach, like, not just quiet time, but time with God. Is, you know, I it's not just about having that time carved out every day, but it's about fixating my thoughts on God and realizing those moments in which I'm not fixated on him. And I know I'm probably diving in too deep at this point, but, you know, I honestly believe that ties into self-control. We lose self-control because our human flesh struggles with that, and we'll do senseless things. But if we're so tied into God to where he is literally our strength, he is sort of like those coaches in the NFL. You know, those head coaches have those guys who literally pull the head coaches back so they don't go onto the field and get penalties.
Yep.
God is kind of that. He's pulling us back and reining us in so that we don't do things hastily and lose that self-control. And he's just reminded me of that in a huge way over the past few weeks. So I think it was fitting for this discussion.
Yeah, that's good stuff to bring out that thought that, you know, being able to practice self-control is, I mean, it's directly tied to our dependence on the Lord, like, and listening to who he is, his truth, his word, reminding our soul who he is. And I know we'll get there, but, you know, self-control is part of the fruit of the Spirit. And so as you're strengthening your spirit, you're able to practice more self-control. So I shared on this podcast a few episodes ago, or it was maybe a couple months ago, but, you know, I dealt with some addiction issues in my life, and that were confronted a few years ago. But as I was struggling with that through my life, self-control was one of those things that lacked in a lot of areas. When I would kind of look around and see what was going on in my life, it's kind of going back and thinking through that time. And anger was one. You had mentioned that. Like, I learned to conceal it pretty well around my family and in front of the church people. But if I was alone, man, I would fly off. But the one that really got me, that I don't think I was overly aware of, but was food. That I was kind of medicating myself. You know, I would deal with shame for my addiction, but then to deal with the shame, I would just eat a lot, you know. And even during a time when I was really active in riding a bike, I was burning tons of calories. Man, I ate so much that wasn't good for me, and because I thought I just could, and it never really showed. But then that kind of came a source of pride, and that was a whole other thing. But as we talked about eating 50 slices of Cece's pizza earlier,
Yeah, and there's a bowl of candy.
and there's a bowl of candy right there.
Sorry.
But honestly, I mean, so I've dealt with my addiction, and there's still struggle in that, but there's not necessarily self-control struggle, because I have boundaries, parameters, safety things in place. But I'm much more drawn to food now than I was before, as a place that I'll go to distract myself, to feel better about things, and like you were saying, like anger isn't the root, like on its own. Like there's something, and a lack of self-control isn't the issue. There's something deeper that leads to that. And for me, it's all wrapped up in what others think of me. And that's been my, I had that realization 3 years ago. That's what, working through that's what helped me get through my addiction. But even now, that's what my trigger is if I think I'm not liked, or I didn't perform well or whatever, or speak well, or left a meeting and I didn't think that person liked me, like I will want to go home and eat a bunch of candy, or, something, snack, something. And I don't know. I mean, that doesn't seem overly, it seems inconsequential. It's just food, but it's still. I'm letting my desires just kind of run rampant, and I'm not allowing the Spirit to work in those times to help me make the right choice, the best choice. And I wanted to share that. I'm glad you guys shared what you did, because I think a lot of times, especially, we know most of our listeners are guys. And when we get to talking about self-control, I mean, a lot of the thoughts might go towards sexual sin, which is probably a big issue, but it's also, there's so many other things. And at the end of the day, I don't want people to hear this and think, okay, I really have to work harder about not eating an extra serving of ice cream, or I need to really try hard about like not looking at porn as much, or I need to try harder this or that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a spiritual issue that is going to result from our dependency on the Spirit for this fruit to be borne out. And so we wanted to talk a little bit, like what does Scripture say about this? I think we all know it's a biblical concept. We talked about the fruit of the Spirit. So Galatians 5:22 lists those things off: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and then self-control is the last one. And so just to set a foundation for everyone, you don't get some of those fruit. You're not really good at one of those. Yeah. That's a singular fruit. All those things are a part of having the Spirit in us. So he provides us with that self-control. That's where the strength is to have that. So we have to depend on him. You shared a proverb earlier. There's one that I thought was, as I was kind of looking through, that I thought was very telling. And this is Proverbs 25:28 that says, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. That resonated with me because of my story. Thinking back to the time when this was written, the walls were the primary protection against attack from the enemy, and the Solomon here writing this is saying, man, if you don't have that self-control, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of attack, and then spiritually as we're looking at it. So I definitely think it's something important for us to discuss. I'm glad we're spending an episode on it. What do you guys say? What are some things you've come across in your study?
Well, there was two kind of short passages that really stuck out to me when I was looking at things to kind of preparing for this week. And one of them was in James 1 verse 19 through 21. It says, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. And then also the other one in 1 Peter chapter 5, starting in verse 6, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Be alert and be sober of mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And both of those stuck out to me because, they don't necessarily say self-control, but that's one of the big things they're about. Not only self-control, but humility through that self-control. And it helps you center yourself on God's purpose and his, leading within you to kind of lead you towards righteousness instead of jumping at your own inclinations and, to being quick to, be angry or be arrogant or whatever it may be. And those stuck out to me really because, humbleness, I talked about kind of my struggles a little bit ago. That's the big core for me is humility, because I'm very quick to have a witty comment or say something that is just not, that is just my own arrogance in the situation, which almost always, causes strife or some sort of, issue from that. And it's been something that I've struggled with and had to go to God to ask him to help me and to, it really kind of go back to scripture and look at those things and humble myself before God and let that lead me and in my relationships with other people. And that's kind of what for me it all comes down to is it helps, centering myself on that self-control and that humility helps God work through me instead of my own arrogance coming out instead.
Yeah, I was going to share one of my favorite verses in the Bible, 1 Peter 1:13. Normally I quote it from the ESV, but this is from the NLT, which basically sort of goes to a point you just made, Ryan, but it says, "So prepare your minds for action and exercise self-control." The ESV says, "Be sober-minded." Mm-hmm. Put all your hope in the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world. But that thought of preparing your minds for action and exercising self-control, relating self-control to being sober-minded, you think of what does it mean to be sober? Well, obviously not under the influence of something that, we often think alcohol, under the influence of alcohol, which may, obviously skew your senses. But, really acting sober-minded is not being out of control. When you think of that word self-control, obviously it has the word self in it. And so it's interesting when you read those fruit of the Spirit and you read all those things that we should have as Christians as a part of that, as a part of the Holy Spirit living in us. You see self-control and think, well, I think when I hear that word, I tend to think, well, it's on me. I've got to rein it in. I've got to control myself. And I think there is a degree of there is action that is required upon us. However, God's not saying, hey, you have to go figure this out. He's saying, one, if you have the Holy Spirit, he gives you the strength to be able to exhibit it. But it's also about what are those things that we do that contribute to us not being sober spiritually. What are those things that we intake? Those are the things where I think we can sort of have some control over. God can help us fight that temptation and not be drawn to it. But as James says, we're lured and enticed by our own desires. Mm-hmm. And so, when we face that temptation, when we face those things, God can help us with that. But we can also help ourselves by not putting ourselves in situations where we're consuming it. And I think that's the part where we can, that's the part where self comes in. It's, yes, it's us. God expects it of us, but God is saying, hey, I'm here to help you do this and give you the strength to be able to do it. And oh, by the way, if my Holy Spirit's living in you, the Holy Spirit has the power to more than overcome this and to keep you. And so I think that idea of looking at self-control versus, being, and being sober-minded, I like that tie-in. And I see that throughout Scripture. Some translations saying be sober-minded. Some say have self-control. I think that's a good sort of analogous way to look at it for us, especially in the English language anyway.
Yeah, and so the self part of it, it makes me think, and I had this passage pulled up, and I think it goes well, is 1 Corinthians 9, when Paul's talking about the discipline that it takes to be a follower of Jesus, and he gives these different examples of an athlete and a farmer and different things. And then at the end of the chapter in verse 24 of 1 Corinthians 9, he says, "Don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win." And I'll keep going, but Jeff, you're a big runner. Ryan and I are not. Unless the CC's has,
Yeah, it's like,
buy one.
They
get
got
one,
like a special or something like that. I'm sprinting.
But to do something well, there's got to be self-control. To train for, the marathons that you run, you've got to be self-controlled to not only not do certain things, but to also do certain things so that you can have the ability to run this race. And so that's what he says. Like, so run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. So they do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. And then this is the verse. He says, "I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I might be disqualified." Other translations will say like that he beats his body, But the idea is that in this, there's discipline that comes with self-control. He doesn't just go out and do anything because he doesn't want to disqualify himself in his ministry, and he views it as a race, as something he has to train his body, discipline his body, and not just physically. I mean, he's not just talking about like a physical training, but internal, his mind, his spirit, his heart, all that being trained and disciplined, even beating it into submission, right? So self-control, as you were saying, it's brought to us through the Holy Spirit, but there is something that we've got to step into with that. So if I know this is an area where I generally am going to lack self-control, I know, well, part of me being able to live with self-control in this area is to do everything I can to discipline my body not to desire that, not to crave that, not to want that. And if I'm in the point where I'm still in that spot where it's a struggle, it's a temptation, then I'm going to discipline myself not to go there, not to put myself in that. Now, there are some things like stupid people on the roads that we got to be around or whatever. So even more in those situations, it's more than waking up in the morning and thinking, all right, Lord, this is on you. Help me not to be angry at these people. But then feeding yourself with all kinds of things that develop anger, whatever that might be in you. And I'm not just going to rail on movies or video games or whatever, but if there's things that kind of develop that type of response in you, well, maybe you need to step aside from that for a bit.
Yeah.
Or you add in on your morning commute, I'm going to listen to scripture. I'm going to listen to music that speaks about who the Lord is. So with that, it's discipline as well. And it's not, oh, this is for the Spirit. All right, well, God, you got it. What is it that we then need to step into?
I think it's important, too, to be cognizant of the practical ways that our lack of self-control impacts us. I think, Jeff, you talked earlier about how, things like, just putting you in a mood that made you not focused and, angry or, quick to anger or whatever. But I think of, Josh, you mentioned food earlier. That was a big one for me. I obviously am no stranger to food, but there have been times in my life where I've eaten less healthy than others. And one of those times was when I got out of college. One of my early jobs was I worked at Gibson in the customer service for guitars, and I worked nights. And so what I ate was what was convenient and easy, and it was fast food,
Sweaty hunk
junk, all the time for like at least 2 meals a day, sometimes 3. Yes, no sweaty hunks, but like I was eating like Jack in the Box.
2 a.m. with a sweaty hunk.
I was eating like Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever was open, and I felt terrible. I was sluggish. I was, mentally just, was not, not always present, and that really, was a practical way that I saw. I was like, wow, this is really like distracting me in my life. And then, and when you put that on top of your walk with the Lord, it's distracting you from that and letting Him do work through you.
Yeah, I love that point of how it's affecting you in other ways. And so you brought up a very physical thing. And I'm not trying to like one up you, but I have a very similar. It came to my mind, and I don't know if I really even considered this. Maybe I have, but so around that same time, 3 years ago, that I was dealing with some addiction stuff, coming clean with that. I had. I'm sure I've said this on the podcast, but I dealt with some bacterial infections from a tick bite. One of the big issues with that is that my body didn't respond the way it was supposed to when you get a bacterial infection. Like I never had a fever. I never dealt with a rash. Things that when your immune system kicks on, when your immunity kicks on, causes these things because your body's working to fight an infection. That never happened. I just, over a period of about 4 weeks, I got really sluggish, started having some heart rhythm issues, and I gotten so far removed from the tick bite. I didn't think anything about it. I pulled the tick off. I kept going with life. That when I started feeling bad, I never even thought about, oh, well, I had this tick bite so long ago. It took a while before we even had that conversation. It was August. I got bit in April. It was August before we determined what it actually was. And I went through a series of testing with my doctor. And he said the reason that you didn't respond the way your body should have, he said you had no immune response to this infection. And he said all that comes from your gut, which is basically destroyed. He's like, what have you been eating? And I, embarrassingly said anything and everything I ever wanted to eat. And he said your diet, because your immunity comes from your gut. He's like, you destroyed this in your gut by eating whatever you want to eat. So part of my recovery wasn't just taking a buttload of antibiotics, but it was a whole change in diet, heavy on probiotic. And the diet was, a clean elimination type of thing for about 3 or 4 months. And it was terrible. But because I didn't practice self-control in the things I ate, it really intensified the health issue that I was having. So that's such a great point to bring up. Like it's going to have these ripple effects. I think in our life and other areas. Anger. What's that going to? That's going to deal with blood pressure, and then what are you going to do to kind of medicate that anger? But then even people around us. My self-control issues, affect other people. Affects my wife. It affects my kids. So that's a really good thing to remember. Like it's not just this moment, this time, this issue, or just me. It's everyone around us in some way.
Yeah, it's like a small pebble, and then it just ripples out and just affects not only us but the people around us.
It is really amazing, how different of a mindset we can get in when we do sort of look at some of those things that we can change, those little things. And I'll just share this. So often on my commute into work, I listen to a lot of sports talk and sports radio. And, none of it's bad. It's just talking about sports, and, I enjoy sports and hearing about it and even listening to people debate about it. But, it obviously didn't help me. And knowing that, I'm easily triggered by bad drivers and, people being insensitive to, letting people in and cutting you off and all those things. It wasn't good for my anger, but I changed up my morning routine, and I sort of did this accidentally. But I say accidentally, I think by God's providence, but it wasn't anything I did consciously. But just started actually spending a lot of my commutes into work, because I've got about a 35, 40-minute commute. I was like, why can't I just use that as a time for warm prayer? So I turned worship music on real soft, and I just pray that entire time. And it's amazing how when I'm praying the entire time, all of a sudden when people cut me off, it's not a big deal. I'm just like, oh, well.
And your commute is across Clarksville.
Yes.
So prayer
in
is
New Providence.
Up Boot Hill. Yeah, it's definitely needed.
But it's amazing how it shuts down all those, those lack of self-control issues and those quick to anger issues, and it would put me in a much better mood going into work, rather than being like getting to work and just being angry and stressed. All of a sudden, I'm facing a stressful day, but I'm more at peace and having greater joy getting into it. And so it is a ripple effect. And it's amazing how it not only impacts us spiritually, but physically. You know, even today, I went to the doctor, did my checkup. Good to know that they said nothing about, the
big C
exam. Yeah. But they did do an EKG on me, because they said, yeah, after 40, you really should have one every year. I'd never had one, but I'd had my first one today.
The best part about that is when they rip the suckers off.
You know what? So they pulled up my shirt and started sticking the stickers on, and they're like, we may have to shave you. It's like, yeah, that may not help the blood pressure. But so they did all that, and of course took my blood pressure, and they did see that my blood pressure was a little high, which normally it is not, because I'm a runner. But they said, yeah, it's high, and they were trying to get to the root cause of it, and really I think stress and probably me, my anxiousness about things and anger stems from that as well, is what's causing it. And so it does have a ripple effect, and it's not that God's saying, hey, I want you to be controlled, like he's some God up there that's trying to make us into mindless robots. God knows all this. God designed us, and God's saying, I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to keep you from horrible consequences, from doing stupid stuff, but, destroying yourself at the end of the day. And that's why self-control is so important.
Yeah, that's because everything, a lot of it comes back to, you mentioned this in James about our desires. Self-control is just keeping our desires in check. I believe is really what it's all about. He mentions later in James, I wanted to show this in chapter 4. He's talking to all these, not just one church, but these Jews that have been dispersed out of Jerusalem, the Jewish believers that have left Jerusalem. He says, what's causing the quarrels and fights among you? So apparently there's a lot of fighting, but he says, they come from the evil desires at war within you. You desire something and you don't have it, so you scheme and kill to get it. You're jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away. You don't have what you want because you don't ask God, and even when you ask, you don't get because your motives are wrong. You only want you want only what will give you pleasure. So he talks about their desires aren't in check, right? And that's why they're sinning in these various ways, even murder. Now, James could be talking about the way Jesus did. If you had harbor murder in your heart, or anger in your heart towards a brother, it's the same as murder. But he said that there are things that they don't have because they don't ask God, because they ask with wrong motives. And so when I see that, I say, okay, well, maybe some of their desires are good, but it crosses a certain line. And because they're not trusting God for those desires, they're not in check, then it leads to sin. And when you begin to think through all the things that God has commanded us to or called us to in a way to live, you mentioned, the slow to speak, slow to anger, quick to listen, right? That's self-control. We're even told to be angry, but don't sin in our anger. Well, it goes to sin when we don't have self-control. And that's usually from a desire to be proven right in something, or to communicate that something is right, good, and something else is evil. Showing others more honor, submitting to each other, even loving each other the way we love ourselves. It all comes back to being able to control what our desires are, and then even direct them to good things. So this is a vital thing. I feel like self-control just gets tacked on to it is the last one, but love, joy, peace, like those are all. We always pray for patience, right? And there's the joke about don't pray for that because then you're going to be given things to be patient. But that's how all of these things work. I mean, we grow in all of these areas by being put in positions to practice them. But self-control, like, that just kind of gets left out there. But if you think about it, pretty much in order to live a life that honors God in any way whatsoever, we have to control the fleshly desires that we have, and even the desires that have just been built into us by the Lord. He's given us a desire to enjoy good food. Great, right? He's given us a desire to have sexual intimacy with our wife or our husband only, right? So we want to clarify that.
Does anybody here have a husband?
Wife, if you're a lady.
My wife might be
Wife,
upset
if you're a
she found
man,
out
not
I
a
had
lady.
husband.
See, I can't even get it right now. But all those things, okay, when we practice self-control, those desires can be enjoyed to their fullest. And when we don't, then we pervert it, and it affects us and affects others. So it is a big deal. It's something for us to pursue in our lives if we want to be able to honor the Lord well.
They're all connected too. I mean, yeah, it's a list, but if you look at each of those, take patience. I mean, in order to have patience, it takes self-control, and you see how those all like kind of have their various ways that they're expressed and done, but at the same time they're all connected. And I think love is mentioned first because I obviously I think that's the key. That's what God preaches. God is love. But, I would not say one is more important than the other, is that they're all connected together. And I honestly think there's reason that self-control is even last, and sort of the caboose of it is because, if you don't have self-control, you're not going to be able to exhibit any of those fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And so I think that, that's kind of the tie-in there. It's like it begins with love, which is given to us, through Christ, through God. And then, we have to exhibit self-control in order for all of these things to really be exhibited to the fullest.
Well, yeah, it's the Bible in lots of places talks about a denial of self, and that's really what self-control is, denying yourself to let those other things and other attributes and God really work through you, and that's the end goal of it. So I think.
So we've established self-control is biblical and it's good. Hopefully no one is walking away from this part with anything other than that. So how then do we pursue that? We've talked around this a little bit, but if somebody comes and sits down with you and they're asking you like, hey, I'm struggling with self-control in this area, this area, this area, what might be some practical advice that we could give them? Because I'm sure there's people listening that might have that question.
Yeah, I think one, it's recognizing the areas in which it's most difficult to have self-control.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're not even honest with where are the areas in which it's difficult, or we lie to ourselves and say, I do have control over this. I could stop when I want to, or I could tame this down, or whatever. So we have to be honest, and I would say that's really the first step is just being open and honest. That, it's the whole idea of we got to admit that we're a sinner.
Yeah.
We screw up. And so we have to come to grips with that I don't have control of this, and don't deceive ourselves into thinking that we have any part or control. And it's recognizing maybe where those things are getting in, how they're coming through the door. And so are there specific things that I'm doing? It comes down to, what are the things I'm watching, I'm listening to? Who are the people that I'm interacting with? What are the situations in which this is the biggest struggle? When are the times in which this is the biggest struggle? And it's doing the things to help eliminate those, but those ultimately don't necessarily change the heart. Those are just sort of practical ways that we could walk away from it. And I think if our heart's not changed, we're going to get right back into it. And so that's where obviously God comes into the picture. We've got to fill ourselves more with Him, and the more that we do, He increases, we decrease. And obviously, we're walking, more in love, in the Spirit, and exhibiting those things versus losing control.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really the main things there are to it. Just awareness, which also comes with awareness of not only the areas that you need to exhibit self-control, but also the awareness of things that cause you to lack in self-control, and then just leaning on God and His Word and the Holy Spirit in your life to kind of fill the gaps that we can't do ourselves.
Yeah, I mean those are huge. I like the idea of kind of owning it, at the front end. Okay, I have this struggle. I have this issue. This is a spot where I lose self-control, and not blaming other people, because a lot of times we can blame others for, well, this is why I do this. Yeah. If they weren't so difficult, if they weren't so draining, if my job wasn't so, or my commute so, or whatever. Listen, everybody's got tough crap to deal with, right? Especially if you've been eating a lot of really solid food, a lot of fine, but we all have that stuff in life, and so we just have to own, okay, this is just human existence is hard, but I have a spirit and I'm not using it, and this is where I struggle. And then one thing I would add into that is bringing somebody else in to that, especially if you're the only one that knows what you're going through. Like if you haven't opened that up, I heard this from another guy, from another pastor, talking to me as I was coming through some of my stuff, and he mentioned, like, there's a reason in Scripture that we're told to confess our sins to the Lord, because He's faithful and just to forgive us. So we get our forgiveness through Him. But then we're also commanded, this is another James passage in 5, to confess our sins to one another so that we may be healed. Mm-hmm. And there very well could have been some physical ailments those believers were dealing with. But it's much deeper, I think, than that healing. I think there's a spiritual healing that does not come unless others are brought in to that situation, because whatever that self-control is, more than likely you're dealing with some sort of shame over it. I don't want people to know that I'm eating a ton of ice cream to deal with my emotions, or that I'm watching a lot of porn, or that I'm always angry because I seem to be just this guy that's got it all together. And so shame develops. That's a tool of the enemy, and the quickest way to break that is to share it with somebody. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, since we're guys sitting around here, like, you need to be a part of some sort of brotherhood, whether it's one other guy or a group of guys that you can tell anything to, and they're going to accept you, they're going to love you, they're going to show you grace. And because once you bring that into the light and bring it out, man, it loses a lot of its control. That thing loses a lot of its control over you. And you can then begin to take those steps, not only more intentionally, but in a way that's much more effective, because you've got other people that know now, and maybe there's some accountability in that as well. And so kind of going back to that idea, you tell Christ you're forgiven, it's taken care of, your eternal forgiveness is secure, but then that bondage is broken on the earth, though, through talking with other people about it. So own it, share it, and we got to come up with a third really good something about with going to the Word and trusting in the Holy Spirit.
Own it, share it, pray it.
Yeah, we can do that. we need to make a bracelet and a T-shirt.
Sounds good to me.
Jesus, Jude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all those things are vital if we're gonna improve in this area.
It needs to stand for something, though. So own it, share it. That's O-S. It needs to spell like a word.
Trust it.
Ost.
Oast. Yeah. But I like you got stuff like frog and those things. Yeah, we'll have to come up with something. We need somebody in the podcast that listens, that is really good at that can market something. So we make some money off of it.
Anybody with a marketing degree that listens to us and can help us out.
Bible it, own it, share it. Boss.
Bible it, own it, share it. Yeah.
Boss, baby.
Well, if we can come up with another, I mean, if you had a shirt
S.
that just said "boss" real big on it, that would be
Yeah.
a cool shirt. And then tiny letters underneath. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Or it could say "boss it."
Yep.
So we need a
Boss
a
up,
fourth.
baby.
We need a second S at the end.
Yep. Bible, own it, share it, swear it.
Swear it. So you're committing to it.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
Boss, baby.
Who needs a marketing degree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
this.
When
This
you've
is-
been cheesy
this
youth
is a
ministers,
round
you
table
can come
right
up with that stuff.
That sounds like a sermon series.
It does. at a contemporary church.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
From
Anything?
2003.
Yeah. Extreme bossing it. Without an E, just an X.
I mean, that's a whole youth camp right there, a conference.
That just makes me think of Michael Scott. Those shoulder pads are really boss, man.
Well, we want to just say you're welcome to all the youth pastors and leaders
Yeah.
that listen that now have summer camp covered for next year, your theme. You're welcome.
If anybody takes that theme, at least send us the shirts.
Yeah.
We'll wear them on the podcast.
Yeah, you don't have to pay us anything. We just want to know that we've made a difference in
Yeah.
your youth's lives.
That's payment enough.
Yeah, we want a T-shirt. Anything else on this topic that you wanted to mention? You're practicing self-control right now.
That's right.
I just want to mention that I respect the WNBA and the athletes that are very talented and would dominate me at basketball.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I don't want this to be misconstrued that I don't think that they are talented, athletic.
But when we isolate the
individuals.
30-second clip, we're not putting that part in there.
I still don't think it's a real sport.
Oh, hey.
No, I'm just kidding. I honestly, I really enjoy watching ladies collegiate basketball, especially MTSU and then the Lady Vols. I've always liked watching it. In fact, coming out of college, the women's team was always so much better than the men's. Like I was a bigger Lady Raider fan than I was the men's basketball. But it's kind of gone back and forth.
Have you guys
during
seen
the years.
Caitlin Clark from Iowa?
No, is she huge?
Oh, she's legit.
Yeah.
She can ball. So
Yeah. They don't even have to be collegiate, high school. They could be pickup game ladies playing at First Baptist, on a Wednesday night because they have nothing else to do,
I'd like
and I
to
would
see
get
that.
schooled.
So Silas plays middle school basketball, obviously for the boys team, and then there's the girls team, and they play usually before. And I will say the girls team is a lot scarier and rougher than the boys. So the boys, I get physical, but the girls, man, I mean, there's some clawing
Yeah.
and punching going on.
Yeah, some cat fighting.
Those guys, yeah. Wouldn't go that far. All right,
I just want to give you
self-control
more.
is
I just want to
gone.
give you more things to get some interaction on
Yeah, I guess
TikTok with.
we're going to get a lot from flat earthers, WNBA lovers, NASCAR
NASCAR.
fans.
I still don't think
Scientologists.
NASCAR is real. honestly.
But is it a sport for the person or for the car? I mean, the car does all the work.
Same with horse
I
racing.
think that driving.
I know it's hard to drive that.
I think
I've
driving
heard
it that fast, it's like the G's puts a lot of force on you, and you gotta have good awareness
Yeah.
to turn left.
Yeah, it's not easy to drive that. Yeah, but if
I
you
want
had
to go fast.
in a circle for 3 hours. Yeah. So horse racing, that's all about the horse. That's not a sport.
Horse does everything.
It's all about the horse and some really short guy,
Yes.
and really, the short
and it
guy,
lasts like 30 seconds.
the short guy just has to be short and ride the thing. I mean, he doesn't even. Usually, they're not breeding the horses. So you got somebody who's breeding these things
Doing all the
to
work.
have
Well,
some
that's why-
genetic perfection.
I
to
don't
be
know
able
if
to
you
run
watch the
super
Kentucky
fast.
Derby regularly, but the last time I did, I noticed that nobody cares about the jockey when they're handing out the trophy. It's
Yeah.
the owner of the horse that's,
That's right.
accepted.
That's right.
That's right. They're getting everything. That horse is getting the roses put
Yep.
around its neck. And
Have you ever seen the old video of the horse named Hoof and Hearted? So whenever they said the horse's name going around the corner,
hoof-and-hearted?
Hoof Hearted.
Hoof-hearted. Oh, it's
Yeah.
not hoof-and. Hoof-hearted. That's funny.
Yeah, they're big Hoof Hearted. It's coming around the corner. there was a real horse named Hoof Hartford.
So other things that shouldn't be, just as we wrap up here, considered sports and on ESPN. Cornhole.
I don't know, cornhole.
It's fun, but is it a sport?
It's kind of like bowling.
Yeah.
What's it Jim Gaffigan says about bowling, where he's like, you know,
Eat
any sport that you
nachos.
can
Eat
do while
nach-
eating nachos. Not a sport. I feel like cornhole fits in that category.
And he talks about the little hand dryers.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh, I'm sweaty.
Yeah, he's like, if you're sweaty while bowling, you're out of shape. And if you're out of shape in bowling, you're probably a professional bowler.
Hey, have you guys done the duck pin bowling?
I love that. It's so much fun.
Yeah, you go over to City Forum. The balls are like that big,
Yeah.
and
My
The
group,
pins,
we always
they look like ducks.
all the guys in the group
No,
I
they're
go
just-
with
they're
try
just
to, because you can see the speed of the ball. It shows like after every throw.
Oh, that's fun.
So we try to see who can throw it the fastest and hardest. I'm like, we're gonna break this thing.
What's funny is the way the pins are, they're on strings. And so if you throw it really fast,
Oh, you can get the string to take out like so many.
you can do that. But also I found that you don't knock as many pins down because sometimes it's like a bullet, just goes straight through.
Oh, yeah.
And you only knock down like 2 pins.
So the
and
pins kind of
everything else
swing
is-
or whatever?
They will.
Yeah, because it's the regular bowling at City Forum is like that too.
Yeah. It's
Where
on
it's
strings.
like instead of like the pins being set up by a pin setter,
Yeah.
they just have strings that pull them all up into the right spot. and then it
Oh,
sets
I
them
got you.
down.
So they will fall over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once they fall in, they'll. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
But sometimes you can hit them too hard to where they'll just twist around, and then the thing's just going up and down. Like 20
That's my
times.
favorite. I'm like, I think I broke it.
Yeah.
I'll have to try that out.
Yeah.
Not a sport.
But yeah, probably not a sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like glorified skee ball.
I mean, if they put it on ESPN, it's a sport.
That's right. Apparently.
What
Man, I tell-
about hot dog eating contest?
sport?
Yeah, sport. Joey Chestnut is a prime athlete.
Peak condition.
But when you,
Peak
the thing
physical
is, when you
condition.
retire from competitive eating, that's when you become a professional bowler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a good career path actually.
Yeah, probably is. Make a good living that way.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine your working years are spent eating hot dogs, and then your retirement years are spent eating nachos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people do
not
that
bad.
for free.
Yeah.
What about rhythmic
Sorry.
gymnastics?
Rhythmic gymnastics.
Yeah. You ever seen that in the Olympics?
Is that where they're just kind of dancing to
Yeah,
music?
yeah.
They
They're
have, like,
kind of like
the
walking
the
around and they have
sh-
flags.
yeah.
everywhere.
Oh no, not at all.
I mean, you can get a gold medal in rhythmic gymnastics.
I feel like if that's a sport, then like color guard and marching band's a sport.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not a thing.
not at all.
And
I mean, I was in
and what's the one where you go skiing and then you shoot stuff?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
isn't that just what people in
is that
Alaska do?
I forget what that's called.
It's not cross country skiing, but it's like has cross country skiing in it. It's really funny.
It's the most random.
It's like they combine two things
Yeah.
together. Like, let's see who can ski good and shoot.
and shoot well. Yeah.
I mean, so you're carrying a rifle as you're
I think I think you're right. I think somebody in Alaska was like, "Yeah, we do this all the time. Let's just make an event out of it, an Olympic event."
Well, and it's got to be one of those things. Like maybe those two things were recommended. Do they have cross country skiing in the Olympics?
Yeah,
They do.
yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I have a
Big,
bunch
like
of
long
guess
distance.
long
skiing.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then maybe somebody just came in and said, "What if we shoot BB guns?" And the guy was like, "We should probably tag that with something." And like, okay, what's the least strenuous sport? It's probably cross country skiing, right? Because you're slow and you're.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's cross country skiing. Well, I think that's the thing is there's cross country skiing and
And
there's
that.
shooting in the Olympics, but one's in the Winter Olympics and one's in the Summer Olympics. So maybe they were like, we want both of them
We
together.
need guns in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah,
See-
exactly.
See, I think they need like track and field with guns. It's like do the hurdles and then you stop and you shoot something.
They should have track and field with people shooting BBs at them
Yeah.
while they're going
Even
over the
better.
hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The targets are on the hurdles.
That's All right. Well, we have filled an extra 10 minutes with stuff that has nothing to do with self-control.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much.
Speaking of self-control.
Can't wait for the Olympics.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the DudeFax. We are thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit up TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Comment, like, share, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Fleece it
on
out.
Exactly. Fleece it out on our socials. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you have. And honestly, we want to know what you want us to talk about, right? We are clearly experts in sloth noises and so many things. So anything you want our expertise on, just let us know. We'll try to speak on it. And I guess that's it. See you guys next time.